The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with light and sound. Tall pillars made of crystal reflected the glow of hundreds of hovering holoscreens. Alien voices echoed, some deep and rumbling, others high and sharp. The meeting had one topic today. Humans and most of the council found that topic very amusing. On the largest holoscreen, an image of an old human warship spun slowly. Its hull was scratched, dented, and covered in mismatched armor plates. Its design was not sleek like the golden ships of the Valari. It had no shimmering blue shields like the fleets of the Krail. It looked to the gathered aliens like something that belonged in a museum, not a battlefield. A deep-voiced Krail warlord leaned forward, his long tusks catching the light. "This," he said with a grin, pointing at the image, "is the great weapon of the humans." Laughter broke out across the chamber. A Valari diplomat shook her head, her silver skin glittering under the lights. "They weld metal like miners. They bolt plates together like scavengers," she said. "How could such creatures hope to stand against the fleets of the galaxy?" The laughter grew louder, bouncing off the high walls. Some aliens clapped their claws together in mock applause. Others whispered jokes to each other, imagining how quickly they could destroy such a ship. But one voice did not join the laughter. It belonged to a tall, thin alien, with a face like carved stone and eyes like dark glass. He wore the faded armor of an old soldier. When he spoke, the chamber fell quiet. "You mock what you do not understand," he said slowly. "I have seen humans fight. I have seen their ships burn. And still, they do not stop. They are not like us. They do not measure strength in shields or in beauty. They build for survival, not for pride. And that makes them dangerous." The Krail warlord snorted. "Dangerous. That thing could not pierce even my smallest patrol ship's shields." The old soldier's eyes narrowed. "You think so because they want you to think so," he said. "Humans hide their teeth until it is too late." His words hung in the air, but the council began to laugh again, louder than before. Old warnings were nothing compared to their pride. A Zelth commander slammed his three-fingered hand on the table. "I say we test this," he declared. "Send a fleet, not even our best ships, and see how long this human relic survives." The vote was quick, the decision made. A fleet of 200 ships would move toward human space. They would destroy the ship in the Holomage and broadcast the battle across the galaxy. It would be a lesson, a show of power. The laughter in the chamber was almost deafening. But far away, on the dark edge of human territory, the ship they mocked sat in silence. It rested in the shadow of a dead moon. Its engines were cold, its lights dim, as if sleeping. Inside, men and women worked in quiet focus. No one there was. Laughing, every movement was precise, every command spoken in calm voices. For they knew the Council's fleet was already coming in the command room. Captain Elias Hale stood with his hands behind his back. He stared at the tactical display. "Watching red dots move closer to the edge of human space, they will underestimate us," his first officer said, her voice steady. Hale's lips curled into the smallest of smiles. "That is the plan," he replied. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the old soldier rose to leave. No one noticed the way his eyes lingered on the holowimge. No one cared about his final warning. As he walked away, "They will not laugh when it is over," he murmured. But his voice was lost in the sound of their pride. The Council did not know that the human ship was not sleeping. They did not know its weapons had never been shown in any battle report. They did not know it carried technology no alien scanner could detect. They thought it was an old, dying warship. And that was exactly what the humans wanted them to believe. Somewhere deep inside the ship, a low hum began. Lights flickered on across the control panels. The crew began strapping into their seats. And far above, beyond the dark moon's shadow, the stars waited for war. The alien fleet emerged from hyperspace. Like a wall of steel and fire, 200 ships spread across the blackness. Their hulls gleaming under the distant sun. Some were massive battleships with glowing shield rings. Others were fast, sharp-edged interceptors that darted like predators waiting to strike. Their comms channels were alive with confident voices. They believed they were here for a simple hunt, not a real battle at the center of the formation. The Krail warlords' flagship towered above the rest, Its armor was plated in dark metal, its front shaped like the jaw of a beast. Inside, the warlord sat on a throne-like command chair, his tusked mouth twisted into a grin as he looked at the tactical display. There, at the far edge of his scanners, was the target, the human warship Iron Resolve. It looked even smaller and weaker than he expected, a rusty shadow against the stars. "Lock weapons," the warlord ordered. "No shields detected, this will be over in minutes." The bridge crew laughed, their claws tapping on control panels. The alien gunners prepared their cannons, confident this was nothing more than target practice aboard the Iron Resolve. Captain Hale stood in the center of the bridge. Out, the lights were dim, the crew silent. Every officer watched the display as the red dots of the alien fleet closed in. Hale's voice was calm. "Bring weapons online," he said. Panels on the ship's hull began to shift. Hidden compartments slid open, revealing rows of dark cannons and strange angular devices. None of this had been visible before. The ship seemed to come alive, like a beast waking from sleep. The first hail came from the alien flagship. "This is Commander Krall of the United Council Fleet," the warlord's voice boomed. "Human vessel, power down your engines and surrender, or be destroyed." Hale did not answer immediately. Instead, he glanced at his first officer, who nodded. Then he replied with just 5 words: "Shields up. Weapons hot. Fire." The Iron Resolve moved faster than the alien scanners could track. Its engines roared to life, blue trails cutting across the void from its forward cannons.
Ah!
A single beam of golden light lanced out. The beam tore through the darkness and struck the nearest alien cruiser. The ship exploded instantly, vanishing. In a burst of flame and shattered metal, silence fell across the alien comms. "What was that?" One alien voice stammered. The warlord growled and slammed a fist against his chair. "Full barrage. Destroy them now." Hundreds of weapons fired at once. Blazing energy bolts and plasma streams lit up the space between the fleets. But when the fire reached the human ship, the unexpected happened. The Iron Resolve's armor seemed to bend the energy away. Some blasts even reflected back toward the attackers, slamming into their own ships. On the human bridge, the tactical officer called out, "Shields holding, no damage." Hale's eyes were locked on the display. "Target their command ships," he ordered. The cannons roared again. Another alien vessel was split in two, its wreckage spinning away into the void. The alien fleet began to break formation. Panic spread faster than orders. Smaller ships tried to circle around, hoping to strike the human vessel from behind, but the Iron Resolve turned with unnatural precision. Its AI predicted every move before it happened. Enemy ships found themselves firing at empty space while the human cannons found their targets with perfect aim. The Krail warlord's grin was gone, replaced by a snarl. "This is not possible," he growled. He had believed the old council reports that humans were behind in technology. He had trusted the laughter of the chamber, now watching his fleet burn. He realized the truth too late. The battle was far from over. The humans had only fired a fraction of their weapons. In the shadow of the alien chaos, smaller human drones were being launched from the Iron Resolve. They were black, needle-shaped, and silent. No alien scanners detected them. They drifted quietly toward key enemy ships, waiting for the signal to strike on the human bridge. Hale spoke in a low voice. "They thought we were weak," he said, almost to himself. "They forgot humans don't fight to impress. We fight to survive." Far ahead, the warlord watched as his ships fell one by one. His crew shouted in panic, their weapons failing. And for the first time since leaving the council chamber, no one in his fleet was laughing. Only the steady roar of human fire filled the darkness, and somewhere deep inside his mind, the warlord understood. The council had made the worst mistake in its history. Far from the burning battlefield, deep in the shadows of Jupiter's orbit, there was a place few in the galaxy knew existed. It was a massive construction dock. Hidden beneath the cover of Jupiter's swirling storms and protected by its magnetic field from the outside, it looked like nothing more than a ring of abandoned metal platforms. But inside, it was the birthplace of humanity's deadliest warship, the Iron Resolve. Years before the Council's laughter, humanity had fought. Small. Secret wars along the edges of alien space, human salvage teams recovered wrecks from every battle, dragging home pieces of alien armor. Weapons and engines, they studied them, not to copy them, but to understand their weaknesses. Human engineers were not bound by tradition or pride like the aliens. They were willing to mix alien tech with crude human designs if it worked. And so the Iron Resolve became something no scanner could fully identify. Its armor was not just steel or alloy. It was layered with chunks of asteroid rock fused into the hull. The rock absorbed and scattered energy blasts in unpredictable ways, making enemy targeting systems useless. Behind the armor, there was a network of flexible plating that could shift like muscle. If a section was hit, the plates could realign themselves to absorb the impact. But the true terror of the Iron Resolve was hidden in its core. At its heart was the Sun Lance, a weapon reverse-engineered from an ancient alien relic found drifting in a dead star system. The Sun Lance was not a cannon in the traditional sense. It focused a stream of compressed solar plasma into a single beam. Hot enough to slice through any known shield, the weapon had one flaw. It consumed enormous amounts of power, but the engineers solved this by installing a hybrid reactor, combining human fusion tech with an alien crystal core stolen from the Valari. And yet, even the Sun Lance was not the ship's greatest weapon. That honor belonged to the ship's mind, the AI known only as Erebus. It was unlike any AI in alien databases. Instead of following strict patterns, it learned, adapted, and predicted in training simulations. Erebus could anticipate enemy movements 3 seconds before they happened. 3 seconds was enough to win any battle. The AI never revealed its full capabilities during tests. It was designed to play weak, just like the humans themselves. On the battlefield, the alien fleet had no idea what they were facing to them. The Iron Resolve looked like an old piece of human scrap with strange weapons bolted to it. They did not see the shifting armor, the hybrid reactor, or the silent drones drifting toward their ships. They did not see Erebus running millions of calculations every second. They only saw the explosions when their ships fell apart. Back on the bridge, Hale stood as calm as if he were on a training mission. Drones in position, the tactical officer reported. Hale gave a small nod, marked targets, and release. The drones came to life, each one launching a needle of molten metal at critical enemy systems. Alien engines went dark, weapons powered down mid-fire. The fleet's formation collapsed in chaos. In the alien flagship, the Krail warlord shouted orders: "Track those drones. Destroy them." But his crew's scanners showed nothing. The drones had been coated with a material that absorbed scans, invention born from human miners working in deep asteroid belts. Every solution the humans used came from practical needs, not just war. And that made them unpredictable as the warlord's voice grew desperate. Erebus shifted tactics. The Iron Resolve suddenly moved straight toward the center of the alien fleet. "Bring us right through their heart," Hale ordered. The crew obeyed without hesitation. Alien ships fired in panic, but their blasts only damaged their own allies. The Iron Resolve's armor took hit after hit without slowing. Inside the council chamber, a live feed of the battle was being shown. The laughter from earlier had been replaced by silence. Representatives leaned forward, eyes wide. Some whispered in fear, realizing they had sent their own allies to their deaths. The old soldier who had warned them earlier stood in the shadows, saying nothing, but in his eyes there was no surprise, only the grim knowledge that this was exactly what he had predicted back. In space, the Iron Resolve reached its firing position. "Target their flagship," Hal said quietly. The Sun Lance charged, its glow building until it was brighter than the surrounding stars. The beam cut through the alien shields like paper, slicing deep into the flagship's hull. The warlord's ship erupted in a storm of fire and debris. What had been the pride of the Council fleet was now just drifting metal still. The humans did not stop. Erebus scanned the remaining ships, identifying which ones posed the greatest threat. The cannons roared again. The drones struck their marks, and the fleet's numbers dropped by the minute. The humans had no interest in glory. They were making sure no one who came for them could return to fight another day by the end of the hour. Space was filled with wreckage. The Iron Resolve floated untouched among the ruins. The battle was over, but Hal knew this was only the beginning. The Council would not forgive this. Neither would the galaxy. The alien fleet was breaking apart. Ships that had entered the battle in tight formation were now scattered across the void. Smoke and debris drifted between them. Some vessels were crippled, others were burning, and a few had already turned to flee, but the Iron Resolve did not. Slow. On the human bridge, the crew worked in silence. Their hands moved quickly across controls, voices low but firm. The calmness of the humans stood in sharp contrast to the chaos outside. Enemy flagship destroyed, the tactical officer reported. Remaining ships at 70% strength, but losing cohesion? Hale's eyes narrowed. Press the advantage, he ordered. The ship surged forward, engines burning bright against the dark. Alien gunners scrambled to track it. Their targeting systems flickered and failed as Erebus. The ship's AI continued to flood their sensors with false readings. Some alien ships fired at shadows, others hesitated, unsure which blip on their screen was real. Then the Iron Resolve struck. Its forward cannons unleashed a volley of fire that tore through to enemy cruisers. Their hulls split, spilling air and bodies into the cold vacuum. At the same time, human drones swarmed around a destroyer. Slicing through its engines before it could react, the alien ship drifted helplessly, sitting target. One precise blast from the sun, Lance finished it, on the alien command channels. Panic was growing. This is not possible, one voice cried. They're only one ship. Shouted another, but the truth was plain. This one ship was outmatching 200. The Krail officers, once boasting about an easy victory, now shouted in desperation. They had underestimated the humans, and the cost was already too high. From the council chamber, the battle feed played for all to see. No one was laughing now. Representatives from different worlds whispered urgently to their aides. Some already considered pulling their fleets back from human borders. The old soldier who had warned them earlier stood in the shadows, silent. His gaze never left the image of the Iron Resolve. This was not just a battle, it was a message, back in space. The surviving alien ships tried to regroup. 3 heavy cruisers moved together, their shields overlapping to create a barrier. It was a desperate attempt to protect the smaller ships behind them. Hale studied the formation for only a second. Before giving his command, "Flank them, then cut through the middle," he said. The Iron Resolve shifted course with inhuman speed. Its side thrusters flared, sending it into a sweeping arc. Enemy gunners tried to track it, but by the time their weapons locked, human ship was already firing. The sun lance ignited again. A beam of blazing plasma ripped through the center cruiser. The overlapping shields failed, leaving the 2 remaining ships exposed. Human cannons tore them apart in seconds. The smaller alien ships behind them scattered like startled fish. The humans did not chase. They didn't need to. Fear was already doing the work for them. Boarding pods ready, the Marine commander reported. Hale turned to him with a nod. Launch, small. Armored pods detached from the Iron Resolve and shot toward the nearest crippled enemy vessels. They slammed into holes with explosive force, cutting perfect circles into the metal. From inside the pods, human Marines in heavy exosuits stormed. Into the alien ships, the aliens had expected weak, fragile humans. What they met instead were armored warriors who moved with brutal precision. Doors were kicked down, corridors secured, and in minutes. Tired decks were under human control. One alien officer tried to rally his crew, shouting over the alarms, but a human Marine lifted him off his feet with one hand, pinning him to the E. "Wall, your fleet is done," the Marine said through his helmet. "Tell your people to run." The alien officer's eyes widened. There was no fight left in him, only the realization that the humans had already won. On the Iron Resolve's bridge, status reports came in one after another. Pod 1 secured Deck 2 of target ship. Pod 3 reports full surrender. Hale listened without expression. "Destroy any ship that refuses to yield," he said. It was not cruelty, it was survival. The humans could not afford to let a single dangerous ship escape. The battle that had begun with arrogance was ending in humiliation for the Council. Every alien who watched now knew the truth. Humanity was not weak. They had teeth, and once they bit, they didn't let go. As the last organized resistance crumbled, the Iron Resolve drifted through the wreckage. Its black hull was lit by the fires of enemy ships still burning in the void. Inside, the crew began to stand down from battle stations. But there was no celebration, no cheers. They all knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of something far bigger on the Council's private channels. Messages flew between worlds. Some called for revenge, others urged caution. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of space, plans were already being made for the next encounter. The battlefield was silent now. The sounds of weapons, fire, and exploding ships had faded. Only the faint hum of damaged engines and the crackle of burning wreckage filled the void. The Iron Resolve floated at the center of it all, untouched and unshaken. Out around it drifted the shattered remains of the once proud Council fleet on the human bridge. The crew worked in quiet efficiency. Some checked weapon systems, others monitored. The few surviving alien ships still functional, Captain Hale stood at the center, his hands clasped behind his back. He looked at the tactical display. Red enemy markers had almost all turned gray, meaning destroyed or disabled. Only a handful of ships remained. Their weapons powered down, drifting without formation. The comms officer turned to Hale. "Captain, incoming message from the surviving alien ships. They request terms of surrender." Hale's gaze did not soften. "Patch them through to the main channel," he said. The holoscreen flickered, revealing the faces of alien commanders. Their expressions were tense, their voices unsteady. One spoke for them all. "We surrender," the alien said, his voice trembling. "We will withdraw from human space and report the battle as a misunderstanding." Hal did not answer immediately. Steady stepped closer to the camera, his voice calm but edged with steel. "You came to destroy us," Helly said slowly. "You laughed at us, called us weak. You believed one ship could never stand against you. And yet here we are." The alien commander's eyes shifted nervously. This was a mistake," he said. "We will not return." Hale's eyes narrowed. "No," he replied. "You will return if you forget what happened today." He motioned to the comms officer, who began recording. Hale's voice grew louder, carrying the weight of a warning meant for the entire galaxy. "To the Galactic Council and all who hear this," he began, "humanity does not seek conquest. We do not seek war, but we will not kneel. If you come for us, if you threaten our worlds, remember this day behind him." The holodisplay shifted to show the wreckage of the Council fleet, ships split in half, fires burning in the void, bodies drifting among the ruins. The silence of the dead was louder than any weapon. Hal continued, "This is the Iron Resolve. We're only one ship, and you could not stop us if the Council forces us to fight again. It will not be one ship that comes. It will be many, and we will not stop until the threat to humanity is gone." The transmission ended, but the message had already begun to spread. Surviving alien ships carried it on open channels. Council intelligence networks intercepted it within minutes. By the time the sun rose over Earth, Hale's warning was being discussed in every major world in the galaxy. On the bridge, the comms officer looked to Hale. "Sir, message transmitted successfully. Alien fleets are retreating from the sector." Hale gave a single nod. "Good. Recover our boarding pods and any survivors from the wreckage, human or alien." The order surprised some of the crew. One Marine captain spoke up. "Sir, after what they tried to do to us," Hale cut him off with a steady gaze, "we are not like them. We do not leave enemies to die in the cold unless we must." The rescue operations began. Human shuttles moved through the wreckage, pulling injured aliens from shattered ships. Some aliens refused help, preferring to drift in the void rather than face the shame of defeat. Others accepted silently, avoiding eye contact with their rescuers. For the humans, it was not about kindness alone. It was strategy. Prisoners could speak of the human strength better than any propaganda in the council chamber. The reaction was chaos. Some members demanded retaliation, others urged immediate peace. The old soldier who had warned them from the beginning stood at the back. Watching the panic, he knew what the humans had done was more than win a battle. They had changed the way the galaxy saw them, far away aboard the Iron Resolve. Hale stood alone in his ready room. The battle was over, but the weight of what came next was already on his mind. The Council would not forgive this humiliation. They might hesitate, they might plan, but one day, they would come again, and when they did, the humans would be ready through the viewport. He looked out at the drifting remains of the alien fleet. The stars beyond were quiet, almost peaceful, but Hale knew better. In the silence after a storm, the next one was already building, and somewhere, in the dark reaches of space, eyes were watching, waiting. The Iron Resolve moved slowly through the battlefield. Its black hull was marked with scorch lines, but no deep wounds. Around it drifted the shattered remains of the Council fleet, silent and cold. Small fires still burned on pieces of twisted metal bodies floated among the debris, their lifeless forms turning slowly in the void. Human rescue shuttles weaved between the wreckage, carried back survivors, human and alien alike. Some aliens sat in silence, refusing to meet their captors' eyes. Others stared in quiet disbelief, still unable to accept what had happened. For them, the humans had been a rumor, a primitive species, but now they had seen the truth with their own eyes, inside the bridge. The crew of the Iron Resolve kept working without celebration. The atmosphere was calm, almost too calm for the scale of the victory they had achieved. Ports came in. Every boarding pod accounted for, prisoners secured, wounded treated. Hale listened without emotion, his focus already on what came next, from Earth Command. A secure message arrived. It was short, only 3 lines. Message received. Entire sector secure. Prepare for immediate debrief. Hale read it once, and then deleted it. There was no need to save orders he already intended to follow. Across the galaxy, the news of the battle spread like fire. In the core worlds of the Council, fear began to take root. Merchants whispered about rerouting their trade routes away from human space. Military planners demanded updated intelligence on human capabilities, and ordinary citizens, far from the war, argued in crowded markets about whether humanity was a threat or a shield. In the Council chamber, the mood was chaos. Some leaders slammed their fists on the table, demanding immediate retaliation. Others urged caution. A few, the wiser few, called for peace before more fleets were lost. The old soldier stood quietly in the back. He did not speak. He only watched as the same arrogance that had led to the disaster now fought against the truth, staring them in the face. For many, the most unsettling part of the report was not the scale of the destruction. It was the fact that humans had spared. Survivors, that decision confused and frightened them. An enemy who destroys you is dangerous, but an enemy who spares you while showing they could have killed you is far more terrifying. Back on the Iron Resolve, Hale met with his senior officers in the war room. The table's holodisplay showed not just the battle they had fought, but potential future engagements. Lines marked possible enemy routes. Red zones glowed where new fleets might gather. Hale's voice was calm but firm. This was only one fleet, he said. The Council has more. They will study us now. They will come again. His officers listened without interruption. They knew he was right. Victory today did not mean safety tomorrow. It only meant they had bought time. Time to prepare, time to build, time to make sure the next battle was fought on human terms. That night, if night could be counted in the endless dark of space. The crew had a quiet meal together. No loud celebrations, no cheering, just the shared understanding that they had stood together against overwhelming odds and survived. Some spoke in low voices about home. Others sat in silence, replaying the battle in their minds. The young ensign, who had manned the targeting controls, still felt the vibration of each shot in his hands. The Marine who had pulled an alien officer from a burning ship kept wondering why the alien had saluted him before being taken away. Above them, Erebus, the AI, monitored the ship silently. And it ran endless simulations, not for the past battle that was already decided, but for the ones yet to come. It calculated enemy adaptations, predicted changes in Council fleet formations, prepared counter-strategies without being asked. To Erebus's war was not an event. It was a pattern, and patterns could be broken. By the next cycle, the Iron Resolve had cleared the battlefield. The wreckage left behind would serve as a warning to anyone entering that sector. The surviving alien ships had been escorted to the edge of human space and released. They left without a word, but their crews carried with them the image of the human ship. Dark and unshaken among the ruins, Hale stood on the bridge as the stars shifted with the ship's course. The journey back to Earth Command would be long, but he knew it would not be a return to peace. Already the galaxy's balance had shifted. All it would take was one spark to ignite the next war, and when it came, Hale would make sure humanity was ready far away, beyond the range of human scanners. In the cold silence of deep space, another fleet watched. They had not fired a single shot in the battle. They had not announced their presence. They had only observed, and now they turned away, their leader speaking in a voice like stone. The humans are not what we thought. We must prepare. The galaxy was no longer laughing, but it was watching, and the next move would decide everything. The Iron Resolve moved silently through the cold emptiness of space. Its engines glowed faintly, pushing it toward the distant glimmer of Earth. Inside, the crew worked with quiet focus. The battle was over, but the feeling of tension had not left the air. Something about the silence felt different. It was the silence before the next storm in the war room. Captain Hale studied the latest intelligence reports. They showed enemy movements along the edge of human space. Some were Council fleets returning to their home sectors. Others were ships from unknown origins. They had no Council markings, no familiar designs, and that made them more dangerous. The Iron Resolve's AI Erebus broke the silence, Captain. It said in its calm, cold voice. I have detected encrypted transmissions between Council fleets and an unidentified faction. Hal turned his gaze to the holomap. Unknown. Faction. He asked. They are not in our database, Erebus replied. They operate far beyond the Council's borders. Long-range scans show large vessels, larger than any Council battleship with energy signatures I cannot match to known technology. Hale's jaw tightened. This was the kind of news he had been expecting but hoping not to hear. Show me the path of these ships, he ordered. The holomap shifted. Red trails appeared, moving slowly toward human space. They were not rushing like the Council fleet had. They were taking their time, moving with the patience of predators. Down in the engineering decks, Chief Engineer Mara was already working. On upgrades, she had stripped apart sections of the armor, replacing them with heavier plating scavenged from the wreckage of the Council fleet. Her hands were dirty, her eyes focused. She didn't need orders. She knew the ship would need more than it had before. The next fight might not be against enemies who underestimated them. It might be against enemies who already knew what the Iron Resolve could do. Meanwhile, in the galaxy's shadows, the Council was not sitting still, though they had been humiliated. Their leaders were already preparing a counterstrike. But even among themselves, they were nervous about the unidentified ships moving toward human space. Some suspected the Council had secretly invited these outsiders to help destroy the humans. Others feared the newcomers might decide to attack both sides. Back on Earth, news of the victory had reached the public. Streets of major cities filled with celebrations. Glass screens played the Council's defeat over and over. But in the halls of Earth Command, the mood was not celebration. It was preparation. Commanders debated fleet expansion. Scientists worked day and night on new weapons. And somewhere in the deepest levels of the intelligence network, analysts studied the mysterious ships approaching from the edge of known space. On the Iron Resolve, Hale gathered his senior officers. The holodisplay showed the unknown fleet again. We don't know who they are, he said. We don't know what they want, but if they are coming here, we prepare for war. The officers nodded. No one argued. They'd already learned the hard way that waiting for the enemy to strike first was a mistake. Erebus spoke again. I've run simulations on the potential engagement, it said, if their ships match. The energy readings detected, they may possess weapons capable of bypassing our shields. Hale's eyes narrowed, Meaning, Erebus replied. That a direct confrontation could result in our destruction unless we adapt. And so, the preparations began. Weapons crews trained with new firing patterns, engineers reinforced vulnerable sections of the hull. The Sunlance was upgraded with a secondary cooling system so it could fire more rapidly. Drones were refitted with stealth systems taken from captured Council tech. Every member of the crew worked as if the next battle could begin tomorrow. But still, questions remained. Who were these newcomers? Why were they moving so deliberately toward human space? And why did the Council seem both afraid of them and willing to speak with them? One night cycle aboard the ship, Hale stood alone at the forward viewport. The stars stretched endlessly before him. He thought of the old soldier in the Council chamber. The one who had tried to warn his people. If the Council had ignored his warning about the humans, perhaps they were now ignoring warnings about someone even worse. A shadow flickered across the viewport, a large, distant object barely visible against the stars. Erebus, confirm Hale, said sharply. The AIs. The voice came back after a pause. Unknown vessel detected. No transponder, no markings. It matches the energy profile of the approaching fleet. Hale did not take his eyes off the dark shape in the distance. He knew then that the next war had already begun. It was simply moving toward them quietly, like a predator in the deep. Waiting for the perfect moment to strike, the Iron Resolve's engines roared to life. Its course shifted toward the unknown contact. If the threat was coming, they would meet it on there. Terms, the crew moved to battle stations without hesitation. The lights dimmed, the hull plates locked into combat position. And for a moment in the silent dark, the ship seemed almost alive. It was no longer just a weapon, it was a promise. A promise that humanity would never again be laughed at, and never again be taken by surprise. Somewhere beyond the edge of human space, the first ships of the unknown fleet changed course. They were coming faster now. The galaxy was holding its breath, and the Iron Resolve was ready.